Every 1 in 5 adults say they don't have a close friend, even though they're surrounded by people. They think something is wrong with them. Maybe they're boring or unlikable. But many people who don't have friends share some small set of traits, and most of them don't even notice it. These traits are quiet, hidden, and easy to miss. Yet they shape how others see you and how you see yourself. By the end of this video, you'll know what these traits are, how to identify them, understand them, and change them if you want to. Let's start with the one that's probably the most relatable if you're watching this video. You know that feeling when someone asks you, "How was your weekend?" and you just shut down? Not because you're rude, but because you genuinely don't know how to make yourself care about that conversation? That's not a personality flaw, that's a depth preference. And it's one of the most common traits researchers find in people who have very few close friends. Here are ingredients of forming friendship: repeated, casual contact over time, small talk, shared commutes, and lunch breaks. The kind of warm-up interactions that slowly build familiarity. But if you're someone who finds small talk almost physically uncomfortable, who would rather have one real conversation about life, fear, regret, or meaning than 10 conversations about the weather, then you're essentially skipping the part where most people bond. Research from the University of Arizona found that people who engage in more substantive conversations report higher levels of happiness and well-being, but they also struggle more to initiate casual connection. The very depth they crave creates a barrier to entry. Think about Elon Musk. Love him or hate him, this is a man who has publicly admitted he doesn't enjoy most social interaction. In interviews, he's described himself as someone who thinks in first principles, who finds conventional conversation almost tedious. He'd rather debate the future of civilization than make small talk at a party, and yet he has very few people he considers genuinely close. Or look at Keanu Reeves, one of the most beloved celebrities in the world. But Keanu lives famously alone. He doesn't do the Hollywood social circuit. People who know him describe a man who only goes deep, who would rather have a long, honest conversation than be at a party surrounded by hundreds of people. You might love his movies, but getting close to him, that's a different story. And here's what's fascinating. Both of these people aren't lonely because they can't connect. They're isolated because the kind of connection they want is rare, and most people don't know how to meet them there. If this is you, you probably have a mental list of people you respect but can't really talk to. You might go to social events and come home feeling more alone than when you left. Okay, so you want depth. You want real connection. Then why does it feel so hard to actually let people in? This is where it gets a little more complicated and a little more personal. A lot of people who end up without close friends aren't cold. They're careful. And there's a massive difference between those two things. Psychologists call it attachment anxiety or hypervigilance in relationships, and it usually doesn't come out of nowhere. It comes from experience, from the friend who shared your secret, from the family dynamic that taught you early that vulnerability equals danger. Journal of Social and Personal Relationships found that adults who reported childhood experiences of social betrayal were significantly more likely to have fewer close friendships in adulthood. So you become someone who watches before they open up, who tests people, sometimes without even realizing it, who pulls back just when something real starts to form, because if you leave first, at least you're in control of the ending. Look at former US President Barack Obama. In his memoir, he describes a lifelong sense of being an outsider, never fully belonging anywhere. Hawaii, Indonesia, Harvard, Chicago. He was everywhere and somehow always slightly apart. His closest confidant by his own account was Michelle. Beyond that, the circle was very, very small. If this resonates with you, you might be someone who's been hurt enough times that being alone genuinely started to feel safer than risking it again. The walls you built to protect yourself from pain, they're also blocking out everything else. All right, let's talk about energy, because this one is something a lot of you are going to recognize immediately. You go to a party or a work event and it's going all fine, maybe even fun. But then you get home and you feel drained out, like someone pulled the plug and all your energy just drained away. Sounds familiar? This isn't just introversion, though, that's part of it. This is something researchers call social depletion, the genuine, measurable drop in cognitive and emotional resources that happens after sustained social interaction for certain personality types. According to research from the American Psychological Association, roughly 40% of the population identifies as introverted, but among people with very few close friends, that number climbs significantly. For you, a 2-hour dinner party might cost what a full workday costs someone else. And when you're working with that budget, you become very strategic about how you spend it, which usually means not spending it on casual, low-stakes social interaction. The result? You cancel plans, you don't reach out. You develop a reputation for being hard to pin down, flaky, or distant, when really you're just managing a limited and very real resource. Look at Warren Buffett, one of the richest and most admired people on earth. And he lives in the same modest house in Omaha he's owned since 1958. He doesn't do galas or parties. His idea of a great evening is reading financial reports and eating McDonald's, not because he's antisocial, but because his energy goes where it matters most to him, and socializing for its own sake, that's not on the list. So you're not antisocial or broken. You're just someone whose social battery runs differently. The problem is that friendships require maintenance. They require showing up, reaching out, being present. Okay, this one might be the most validating thing you hear in this entire video. So pay attention. Have you ever been in a conversation and felt like you were speaking a completely different language? Not literally, but like your humor, references, and interests just doesn't land the same way it lands for most people? That's not arrogance. That's a real phenomenon. And it's one of the most overlooked reasons people end up without close friends. Researchers studying creative personality have found something consistent. The more a person's cognitive style, interests, or worldview deviates from the norm, the harder it becomes to find genuine peers. And peers are people who actually get you. A study from Vanderbilt University tracking intellectually gifted individuals found that by adulthood, many reported chronic feelings of social isolation. This doesn't have to be about IQ. It can be your sense of humor, values, or anything else. You're wired differently. Casual friendship feels like wearing a costume. There's Anthony Bourdain, beloved by millions, uniquely funny and intelligent, someone who could make anyone feel seen in conversation. And yet, he described feeling profoundly alone for most of his life. His mind moved in ways most people couldn't follow. His darkness ran deeper than most people could sit with. If you also feel this way, you're not too much. You're just specific, and specificity is actually the key ingredient in the deepest friendships that exist. The problem is that the right people are rare, and you might have spent so long not finding them that you've started to wonder if they exist at all. They do, but finding them requires staying in the world long enough to let them find you too. All right, this last one is the most important, and it might be the hardest to hear, so bear with me. All of the factors behind loneliness we discussed until now can lead somewhere unexpected. It leads to peace. You build an inner world. Books, music, ideas, creativity, solitude. You discover that you're actually really good company for yourself, that you don't need much from other people to feel okay. And that realization, for many people, it feels like freedom. And it is, until it isn't. Psychologists who study loneliness have identified something they call adaptive isolation. It's the process by which people who repeatedly fail to find a satisfying connection gradually stop seeking it. They build rich inner lives, develop deep self-sufficiency, and genuinely feel content alone. Consider Cristiano Ronaldo, possibly the greatest soccer player of all time. He's spoken candidly about loneliness at the top, surrounded by millions of fans, dozens of teammates, endless attention, yet describing a profound sense of isolation. The higher you climb, the harder it becomes to find people who see you rather than what you represent. And so many high achievers respond the same way. They go further inward. They need less. They ask for nothing. If this is you, and be honest with yourself here, ask yourself this question. Is being alone something you've chosen? Or something you've gotten so comfortable with that you've stopped questioning it? Remember that stat from the beginning? 1 in 5 adults have no close friends. When we started, that number might have felt surprising, maybe even alarming, but now you know what's actually behind it. It's not a failure. It's a specific set of patterns: depth-seeking, careful trust, social exhaustion, a different kind of mind, and a very well-developed comfort with being alone, all working quietly in the background. If this video resonated with you, share it with someone who might need to hear it. Drop a comment below. Which of these traits felt most like you?